person she murdered, the person she took part in taking life, was the very person who gave her life. The very person who gave her life, her mother. Life's not a movie. Kind of reminds me of Natural Born Killers. Life's not a movie. Our actions have consequences.
That was the district attorney speaking, and he's talking about a woman. Well, she was 17 at the time that she beat and killed her own biological mother before running off to Mexico. A law change in Louisiana now gives her a chance at parole because she was considered to be a child. So we're about to watch her very first parole hearing. We're going to jump in and unpack it at the end. We are also seeing two new board members for the very first time, the preacher and the sheriff.
So you are THEA Johnson. Your DOC number is 436763. You're currently serving a life sentence. You were sentenced in Rapides Parish, most recently July 27th, 2018, for a first-degree murder. That was resentencing, where the parole restriction was removed from your sentence. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So your parole eligibility date is determined to be July 22nd, 2024. Is that your understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you answer Mr. Prater's questions, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. You
Good
doing
morning.
okay today?
Yes,
All right.
sir.
First thing I'd like to know is, how old were you exactly when this offense occurred?
I was 17 years old.
Okay, and how close to your 18th birthday?
Approximately a month.
Okay. All right, that's one thing that when I made some notes here, I was kind of curious about, because I know that you were resentenced to where you're eligible for parole, but had this occurred 3 weeks later, you wouldn't have had that opportunity. So because of that Supreme Court ruling, you did get lucky by 3 weeks, and so that was a good thing. I read the file, and there was a lot of things in there, as you would know, and as I'm sure you're very familiar with. Some things that bothered me was the fact that I know the contention is that the boyfriend killed your mom, and not you. You were just there, but there was some money and VCRs and things like that stolen. Whose idea was that?
That was his idea. It was done after the fact, and he decided that he needed to take those things so he could sell them for money.
Okay. And then I know these are difficult things to talk about because I'm sure you want to put this out of your mind and don't want to go back over it, but it's the things I need to clear up maybe in my mind is once your mom was deceased, then you disposed of the body. Who was leading the charge on this? Who was like, go get a trash bag, help me get her in a trash bag, that sort of thing?
That was what he told me what to do and what to get, and I did comply with what he asked me to do.
Okay. And I assume the cleaning up the crime scene also. Did you go and get the bleach, or did he go and get it, or what happened with that?
He did go and get it. And basically I remember him he poured the bleach in everywhere, and he made the comment that if he could put the bleach on the blood, that it would destroy the DNA and they wouldn't know if it was just one person's blood or more than one person.
Okay. All right. And then of course you disposed of the body and all that, and we know that. And then y'all went on the run. And while you were actually on the run is when you turned 18, correct? In the 3 weeks or so that you were on the lam and headed to Mexico, you turned 18.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then you were caught, and the rest of it is history. Once you've been incarcerated, I noticed that you did you've done some really great things as far as your certificates and all of that. How many certificates do you think you have? I didn't count them all, but I know there were a lot, and I read each one of them.
Somewhere around maybe 45.
Okay. So you've taken good use of your time while you've been incarcerated.
I have
So
tried, sir.
I commend you for that. I really do. One thing I was troubled with was an incident in 2022 where you got into some kind of altercation. I see you kind of shaking your head. You know where I'm going with this. Could you tell me about that? I know that you were disciplined for aggravated fighting, I believe is what it was.
Yes, sir. It was a situation that happened at the spur of the moment. I did not think before I acted, and it was a very unfortunate, and it's something I really, really regret. Since then, I've actually taken a couple of classes that dealt with the fact that I should have asked for help instead of reacting so quickly. You know, I did not at that point I did not think before I acted, but now I know that it doesn't cost anything just to stop for a minute before you do something. And that can completely prevent an unfortunate incident like this from happening.
Okay, that's good words. But what actually happened? What made it aggravating?
I really don't know why they said it was aggravated fighting. I think because there was more than two people involved. I think if it was more than two people involved, they consider it aggravated, or you have to have some kind of weapon or something. But I didn't have anything like that. There were three people involved in this fight, so that's why they considered it aggravated.
Because I'm normally in crime business, you think of aggravated as with a weapon or whether it's serious injury or something like that. But in this case, was there a weapon involved or serious injury?
No, sir. There was no weapon. It was just what they would call a typical fight, but because it was involving three people instead of two, they labeled it as an aggravated.
Okay. All right. I think that's about all the questions that I have. And you've been in jail for how long?
Almost 25. It'll be 4 months short of 25 years.
Okay. All right. And that's all the questions that I have there, Chairman.
Thank you. And so today, how old are you?
I am 42 years old.
And we refer to your co-defendant as your boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am. He was at the time. Yes, ma'am.
How long has you and he been in a relationship?
About approximately like 6 to 8 months.
Warden Thomas, is there anything you can tell us about Ms. Johnson?
Yeah, she is medium custody offender. She has kind of like Mr. Prater had mentioned, just participated in quite a lot of different programs here, whether they were awarded CTRP credits or not. So I think that's something good to note, that, you know, she was willing to participate in the class, whether there was some good time credits awarded. She has completed MRT and thinking for a change. She has a low risk score. She also participates in lifers and Toastmasters. So no real issues other than, you know, we had that hiccup that we kind of talked about with 2022 fight. Really since 2017, you know, have not really had any issues or anything. So.
Thank you. Appreciate it. At this time, we'll hear from the folks who want to speak in support. First, we'll hear from the Parole Project.
Yes, good morning. Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. Parole Project is prepared to offer Ms. Johnson long-term support. We understand that, you know, as a juvenile, when she was arrested at age 17, and the length of time that she spent, that she's going to need some transition services. Obviously, the world has changed, and Parole Project we'll provide those things. We'll provide peer mentorship, which essentially is a coach to help her through the transition process. We'll make sure she has all her documentation, that she's connected to healthcare services. We'll make sure that she receives full programming. That will include financial literacy, technology. Obviously, the technology gap is going to be significant. But not only that, goal setting, practical applications, consumer skills, how not simple things, just how to live in today's world, including we'll be providing her transitional housing for as long as needed. So we want this board to know the Parole Project is prepared to give her full support.
Thank you. I don't see where there are any other speakers here in support, so we'll hear next from the opposition. First,
Ms. Renata, we have two that are here.
okay, who are they, please?
Linda Butts,
Okay, and who's the other second speaker?
Rhodes, cousin.
Okay, well, go ahead, Ms. Linda, go ahead and tell us what you'd like us to hear. I'm sorry, it wasn't marked on my sheet. I didn't realize you wanted to speak.
Okay, well, good morning. My name is Linda Freddy Butts. I am Thea's aunt on her daddy's side. I am here today to support Thea. I would like to thank the parole board for giving her this chance. Over the years, I have gotten to know Thea very well. I know that. I need to stand up. Can you see me? I've gotten to know Thea very well. I know that she is bright, intelligent, friendly, and outgoing person. She tries to maintain a positive mental attitude. She is a well-adjusted, mature person. Her seminary training has given her a strong foundation in what a Christian is. She is a true believer and lives it in her daily life. I am so proud of Thea's faith, strength, and determination to make the most of her situation. She has proved that she has a genuine desire to be helpful to her fellow inmates and want to continue helping them when she gets out. She was chosen to teach a seminary class, a safe cert class, and has been very helpful in teaching and encouraging and having to her students. She really cares about her students. She wants to do everything that she can to help them. If they're having trouble, she really jumps in and helps them. She tells me, because we speak almost daily. And she wants to help others. And when she gets out, she's taken courses for teaching, encouraging, and classes for self-improvement and to help others. I have been standing by Thea for 24 years, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and financially. I will be here for her in every way I can. All of our family will stand with her. I developed a relationship with Christine Johnson, that's Thea's grandmother. Thea's grandmother before she got sick. I know that she would be here to support Thea if she was able to. She is in a nursing home. She has dementia. She doesn't know Thea anymore. I'm asking that you show fairness and mercy to her request for parole. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your input. All right, next.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Charlene Rhodes. I'm Thea's cousin. In the time I've known Thea, I mean, I've been in her life as long as I've been alive. But as I've gotten older, we've spoken pretty much on the weekly. We've connected, we bonded. She's one of the softest, sweetest people I've ever met. Her soul is genuine and kind through and through. Me and my husband own a couple of local businesses where we live, and in the future, after her parole project would end, we are prepared to be able to help her get a job, have a place to live. We're always going to be there to help support her, emotionally, financially, spiritually, in whatever way we can. My business partner owns apartments. We already have her on a list for that. I own a cafe tea store that we need people who are really good and serve safe and are really good with public health. So, we're prepared to do whatever we have to do. We're a family and we stand together and we're strong. And we love her very, very much. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate that. Now, we do have in the record for your information, Thea, some other family members have expressed opposition to favorable consideration, and that's in the record. We'll hear from the opposition. Could we first hear from Larry Walker, please?
My name is Larry Walters. I am the brother-in-law to Linda Kyle, who was viciously murdered. And by the guilty, they confessed. And here today, we hear that she has blame for others, but yet she did confess. She pleaded for life without parole in lieu of the death sentence. She is very manipulative. She has been able to con as many people as I know go her way in various things when I knew her before all this happened. And as the verdict, the penalty was given, was justice being served. Today, I ask the board to consider holding fast that original verdict. Okay.
Mr. Walker. Dwayne Walters. Excuse me, that's fair. Thank you for the opportunity. Linda was the only sister who almost here. And with all this has come out, it's just totally impacted my life. I even had to take off work Tuesday from my job because all those images that I saw, it's just, it floods. I see the coagulated blood. I see the drag marks. Me and my nephew found a piece of her brain that they put in a garbage bag. And she, always blames others. And I know she was in on it. She is a good person. And I beg the board this morning, please listen to the plea of the family that had to deal with this and still has to deal with it today, to please not lose. Thank you. And Libby. Libby Johnson.
Good morning. My name is Ruby Johnson, and Linda Kyle was my sister-in-law, my best friend. I was married to her brother Wayne, and she passed away on January 1st, or he would be with us today. But in 1999, our lives changed, my life changed. It was a horrible situation. And I knew with the results of what we were told that Linda suffered, she suffered dearly. And I just don't think her sentence should be changed. She should stay where she's at. She's never showed remorse, and she just needs to be where she's at. She destroyed our whole family, and we've never been the same since then.
Thank you. Right. Ms. Thea, is there anything you'd like to say before we're gonna hear from you, and then we'll hear from your attorney, and then the DA's office will close it out for us.
Yes, ma'am. There's not a day that has gone by that I don't carry this. And I don't deny the fact. And I take responsibility because it was my actions and my choices that caused it. I don't deny that. And I know I've hurt so many people. And I can't take that back, and I wish I could. But I've done everything every day to try to walk and never be that person again. I was young and I was stupid and I've walked every day since then to let my mama's life that she lost be a banner for me to be the best person I can be, no matter where I'm at, no matter who needs my help, no matter what I do. And I'm sorry it's not good enough. And I wish it was, but it's not, and it'll never be. But as Mr. Prater said, these seasons I've tried to take every class that was available. I've learned so much, and I learned the pain that I've caused is so large. And I've taken every chance to, every explanation in every class that has explained how much pain I have caused and how hurt and the different, not only physical, emotional, if I'm given the chance, I'm going to take every opportunity available to me to continuously move forward, listen to my mentors, ask for help, no matter what situation I get myself in, that I know that there are people that'll help me now where I didn't before. And I just thank the board for giving me the opportunity to speak. And I thank everybody that's here, everyone that's here.
Thank you, Neil. Ms. Curtis?
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Cindy Curtis, and I'm a third-year law student at LSU. I'm certified under Louisiana Supreme Court Rule 20, representing Ms. THEA Johnson for her parole application. Thank you for this opportunity. The United States Supreme Court in Miller v. Alabama held that juvenile offenders are fundamentally different from adult offenders. Specifically, the court found that juveniles have the biggest capacity to grow, to mature, to change, and to one day re-enter society. Ms. Johnson is unrecognizable from who she was, a teenage girl almost 25 years ago. At the age of 17, while still in high school, a 31-year-old man found a vulnerable high schooler to latch on to. Ms. Johnson was in a position where she was consumed by that man. He used tactics like over flattery to win over her trust. And then as soon as he built her trust, he used that trust to manipulate her by moving into her room, being with her in the car at all times. Ms. Johnson was consistently tired and exhausted, and he was constantly calling the shots, and she felt that she was in a position that she could not say no, and she felt vulnerable. But Ms. Johnson is not that teenage girl anymore. Now at 42, she has committed herself to self-growth by taking as many classes as possible. She has close to 50 certificates through all the different programs that she has participated in. And she has found faith in God through different programs like Kairos and the Exodus Training Center. what she has found through her daily life gives her hope and gives her courage that she can change, that she can become stronger from who she was at the age of 17. And through classes like moral recognition therapy and thinking for a change, Ms. Johnson has grown into a woman that is independent. She's no longer codependent like she was at 17. She knows how to set healthy boundaries, which she was unable to do when she was still a high schooler. And she has learned to acknowledge her emotions and process them and to react properly. And I know the committee today has raised concerns about Ms. Johnson's most recent write-up. However, Ms. Johnson recognizes that she made a mistake that day and she deeply regrets it. And she has taken courses to work on what led to that altercation by taking Living in Balance, Sister's Keeper, and Life's Healing Choices. And she has learned now from that mistake. And further, 75% of her write-ups were in the first decade, and 96% of her write-ups were in the first 15 years of her incarceration. So only 4%, 2 of her write-ups have occurred in the last decade, which has shown how much Ms. Johnson has grown through her time in incarceration, how much effort she's put into herself to grow and become a better person. And Ms. Johnson was given a low Tiger score in December of 2023, which occurred after the write-up in 2022. And it's stated that she has a low risk for recidivism. And so that write-up specifically does not define who Ms. Johnson is and that she is not a risk to society, and she has grown. And beyond just focusing on herself while incarcerated, Ms. Johnson has found a passion for serving others by participating in community service events like Serenity Gardens, Autism Walk, Children's Extravaganza. But her favorite way of serving others is by teaching. And she's found that through being a ServSafe instructor and a CTE tutor. And many of her peers look up to her and find her to be the shoulder that they lean on. And finally, Honorable Committee, Ms. Johnson has a strong reentry plan. She is going to be a long-term resident at the Parole Project, where they will provide her a case manager, where she will have mentors that can guide her through that process, where she will have housing, they will help her with employment. And she also plans to complete her associate's degree because through Ashland University, she has 2 years if granted parole to finish her degree because education's always been one of her top priorities. And for all these reasons and reasons articulated at this hearing and in the brief submitted on Ms. Johnson's behalf, Ms. Johnson respectfully requests that this honorable committee grant her parole with any conditions the committee deems appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you for your brief. It was very thorough. It was very helpful.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and ladies and gentlemen in the audience. Philip Terrell on behalf of the state of Louisiana and the victims in this matter. I'm really glad that that THEA has taken advantage of all the opportunities to better herself provided by the prison system. I'm glad that she's had some benefit, but let's not forget why THEA is in prison. The soft, sweet person described by her cousin pled guilty to the worst crime under Louisiana law. She pled guilty to first-degree murder. The family support described by the 2 ladies who spoke on her behalf, one of them her cousin, who said she's known her entire life. Let's think about that a minute. She's got family support. Well, the person she murdered, the person she took part in taking life, was the very person who gave her life. The very person who gave her life, her mother. Life's not a movie. Kind of reminds me of Natural Born Killers. Life's not a movie. Our actions have consequences. The consequence of THEA's action had devastating consequences to all the victims who came before y'all and spoke. Devastating consequences that can't be erased, that they have to live with every day. They have to live with those things for the rest of their lives, day in and day out. Part of criminal sentences, part of life sentences, have to do with retribution. Part of those have to do with paying our bills. That's what Thea is doing now. I'm glad that she's able to help some people in the prison system. I'm glad she's growing and learning. Have to point out, as the sheriff pointed out earlier, she had a hiccup. She got in a fight. She's not ready to get out. She's not ready for parole. The victims who spoke to y'all have an interest. They have an interest in Thea staying in prison for the crime she committed. She killed her mother. She murdered her mother. The state of Louisiana and the victims stand before this board today and ask you not to grant her parole because it's the right thing to do. She pled guilty to first-degree murder, the crime of murdering her mother. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you, Mr. Terrell. All right, is the panel prepared to vote? Mr. Prater?
Okay, my vote, is to deny this parole. I don't want you to give up hope. There'll be a chance that you'll come back to us. I want there to be longer time between your latest discipline that you made a bad decision. I mean, that's what started this whole thing, with a bad decision. So I'd like to see some more time. And I also took into consideration, besides that, the age. You missed it by 3 weeks or we wouldn't even be here. And so that was pretty close to what I'd call maybe the not legal definition of age of accountability, but by law it was. So your age when it occurred, you were almost 18, the recent fight, and of course the victim impact. So my vote would be to, at this particular time, deny your request.
Mr. Taylor?
I commend you for all the services and classes you've taken. The choices we choose are the choices we have to live with. I agree with my colleague at this time to deny.
All right, Ms. Johnson, my vote is the same. You know, I appreciate the hard work that you put in. You know, the hiccup that we're calling a hiccup, the fight in 2022 is concerning to me about your capacity for decision making. That was after you took the Thinking for Change, which was supposed to help you learn to make better decisions. So you still have some more work to do. I don't think you're quite ready. Today, your parole application has been denied. Good luck to you. Thank you, Mr. Lancaster. Thank you, Ms. Curtis. Thanks to everybody participating.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I think that concludes our business and LCIW. We're gonna sign off at 9:42.
Thank you.
Well, folks, we have a new sheriff in town, and he goes by the name of Sheriff Steve Prater. And he reminds me an awful lot of Sheriff Grady Judd out of Florida. And I think most of us know who that is. Now, I've been looking forward to seeing Mr. Sheriff Steve Prater in action, and I don't think he disappoints. And we're going to see a few more hearings where we really get to see much more of his personality. So let's just look at his profile a little bit. For those of you who aren't familiar, let's go pull it up. So he was let's pull it right here. Oh boy. It jumps around when I move the screen. So here we go. So he was with the Shreveport Police Department for 19 years, working patrol, detective, and narcotics before being appointed chief of police, a position he held for over 8 years. He was then selected sheriff of Cato Parish. He held that office for 6 terms, during which time he served on the Louisiana Commission on Law Enforcement and was the chairman of the Police Officer Standards and Training Council. So he's been there a long time, and he is tough on crime. Did you notice something that they did differently in this hearing? Did you pick up on it? And I don't think it was a mistake, because I saw a couple hearings today where they did the same thing, and that is that the district attorney spoke last. It's always been that the one applying for parole would speak last. And we're actually accustomed to that, I think, in law in general. The defense has the final statement. But that was not the case here. So that is quite interesting. I think that's setting a statement in itself of how this new governor wants things to go. We saw a glimpse of when I said the preacher, and that's because he was the Angola preacher for a very long time. And that is Chucky Tillis. But Chucky Tillis, from what I've seen, does not seem to be light on crime. He may be able to empathize with prisoners, but he does not seem to be head in the clouds, in denial type of man. So far, I'm liking what I'm seeing as well. But of course, let's all be patient and I think come to our own decisions. And it's very well that we should all agree to disagree. Chucky Tillis is a graduate of Southern University of Baton Rouge and served 30 years as president of Oilfield and Plant Maintenance. For the past 15 years, he selflessly dedicated himself to prison ministry. His serving in ministry to the inmates of Louisiana State Penitentiary, aka Angola, reflects a deep understanding of the challenges faced by those who are incarcerated. He also served as director of the Louisiana Leadership Institute, shaping young minds in the greater Baton Rouge area. So those are our two new introductions. Now, let's talk about the crime. Let's talk about the parole hearing a little bit. And thank you, Richard, for providing the information. So she pled guilty in 2001 to first-degree murder in the death of her mother, Linda. She was bludgeoned and stabbed in her Wardville home by her daughter, who was then 17, and Anthony Fletcher, who was her boyfriend, who was 31 at the time. He also pled guilty to first degree. Now, I don't know if he's what he's up to these days, but we'll never see him on parole, and I doubt they'll ever commute a sentence. But you never know. We've seen worse. Libby was Kyle's sister-in-law. They were best friends who lived next door to each other, and she says she knows THEA murdered her mother. It's caused a rift in the family between those who believe that Johnson belongs in prison and those who want her to be released. And we saw that today. And on that note, I don't know. Not that it'll never ceases to amaze me that this happens, but kind of what amazes me is that how consistently it happens, where the supporters get up and they give this speech that is so full of fluff and consists of words like, she is my role model. She has had a huge impact in my life. I've known her all my life. She's wonderful. And why that is so fluff, it's like, come on, be real. Really? While she's in prison, far, far away, she's having an impact on your life. And they all say it. And they go in and it's like this, whoa, like hippy dippy stuff. And then immediately when they're done with their, flowery speech, you hear the victim come up. And then the victim gives this heartfelt, where you feel it. You feel their pain. You feel their suffering. And the contrast is always so, it's two different worlds. And, there you have it, just on that, in this article here, how it tore the family apart. I hate it happened like this, but I'm sorry, she said. And here it is, again, the classic, I hate it happened like this. I'm sorry that it happened. And I felt that way through her hearing. Really, even seeing the hearing, it felt like there was something lacking. It felt like it felt rehearsed, her statements, and everything she was saying, none of it was her fault. It was horrible. It was months before I could even go out my front door. This is okay, so maybe I'm wrong. This is the other person talking right now at that statement. With her living right next door, I mean, it was just horrible. I went to counseling. I ended up going to talk to a preacher. And with his help, and thank God, I finally kind of overcome, but all this just brings it all back. Her testimony on the stand, it's just horrible. And to know what she went through and to know that her own daughter was taking part in her own murder, that's just unforgiving. Said her family was ready on Wednesday. Right here, they're talking about the hearing that they went through to give her the opportunity for parole. So that's what this, for added context. I was promised that the niece of Rita, the 82-year-old Alexandra, was. This is a different article. So it cuts back and forth between different articles. Sorry for the breakup. Richard found some newspaper articles, but I think I'll take it because because she took a plea deal, she didn't want the death penalty. There's no appeal, so there's no details of the crime. But in a nutshell, her boyfriend and her, what they did is they in the house beat her, bludgeoned her, then slit her, stabbed her till she bled out, and she had to know it was her own daughter doing this. Then they cleaned up the place. They stuffed her body in the trunk of her car, her mother's car, and drove the car into a lake. Then they went off to Mexico after they sold her goods, and they partied in Mexico. And then when they came back, she decided, wow, being on the run's not all that great. So she confessed to the police, took the police where they put the car. They found her mother's body, and she, instead of getting the death penalty, took the sentence. But because she was 17, just right before her 18th birthday, she was given the opportunity of parole because she's considered a child in the eyes of the law. And it's just for someone to take their mother's life, it's a different kind of, it's just a different kind of evil. It's like, I don't know, are you a sociopath, a psychopath? Like what? You're just missing that natural. And I personally didn't see like accountability in this hearing. It really seemed that she blamed everything on someone else, that she had no part in doing it, to do with it. Just kind of happened. It was all her cohort's fault, and maybe there it seems to be that there's uncertainty in who actually whose fault it actually was. There were some writings where they believe that she actually was the one with the knife and was completely involved in the crime. I think that's what he said. But so we may never know the truth behind that. Of course, it does make a difference in my eyes. But the sheriff was having none of it. And I thought he held her to the fire, and they all denied. So, they want to see her go more years without a write-up. I mean, it's been, I guess, 7 years without a write-up. That's pretty good. But they did not want a grant. So thank you, Richard, for the info. And also Carol, who sent information ahead of time about this crime. This was a big story. And we'll move to the next hearing. So what we are going to do right now is watch a return of. So we're going to take a blast to the past. And maybe you saw this hearing already. I aired it in October. And it initially took place in 2021. And so we're going to go back to see a Jim Wise, a Mr. Mirabella classic. And then we're going to fast forward to see our new parole board members. Now, it's not a spoiler. It's possible they parole him and then he gets revoked, or maybe they deny him, put conditions on. So let's watch the hearing. You'll also hear my old unpacking before I come back in. With that, let's go.
You're a first-time felony offender. You're not eligible for good time. You have a full term date of October 14th of 2024. You're currently serving 7 years for indecent behavior with a juvenile and a violation of your supervision. Is that basically correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How long have you been in prison, Mr. Knight, this time?
This time is next 29 next month. We 2 years. Been about A year and 11.
And how did you violate your supervision?
By not contacting my probation officer, I was in the hospital, and matter of fact, I was in the hospital the day they come and served a warrant on me. I just got out from having heart surgery done.
All right. And let's talk a little bit about your past history. You pled guilty to indecent behavior with a juvenile. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And my records reflect that you were revoked because you absconded. Now, maybe you were in the hospital and they couldn't find you. But also understand that you failed to complete your sex offender treatment.
Yeah, I like some. I've done 4.5 years of it. Like about last half of it getting done.
Okay, and I also note that they found some nude photos of girls on your phone. Is that correct?
Of my girlfriend, yes.
Well, what did you learn in your sex offender treatment? Give me some insight on what it is that you learned while you were taking that treatment.
That basically learned that it's illegal. What I done was illegal, and I owned up to what I done.
Well, you know, murder is illegal. Robbery is illegal. People do it. The crime that you committed, I think everybody in the world knows it's illegal. You didn't realize that trying to make contact with a 14-year-old girl was illegal?
Yes,
That's
I
not
did.
what you're telling me, is it?
No, I knew it was illegal. I admit I knew it was illegal.
Okay. Well, I'm not concerned. Let me stop you. I'm not concerned whether or not you've learned it's illegal. I'm concerned about what you've learned to make sure this ain't gonna happen again.
Well,
So tell me that.
I've learned sex offender classes. The things I done was inappropriate, and that basically the things, you know, through the classes is what you should do, that you should do, and you shouldn't do. You know, before the thing gets out of hand, you got time to, you know, say, no, that's wrong, you know, and don't do it. And
let me ask you something, Mr. Knight. You are a sex offender. There are certain requirements that you have to do as a sex offender. We're okay with all of that? You understand all of those things?
Yes, I do.
And you went to classes for how long? Sex offender treatment, even though you didn't finish. How long did you say you went through those classes?
4.5 years.
And it didn't dawn on you that it's probably inappropriate for a sex offender to have nude photos, even if it's his girlfriend on his phone?
No, because the probation officer never said it was, never said that I couldn't have heard. You know, anybody else.
I understand that, but in your education about sex offenders, and things that make sex offenders do the things that they do, it didn't dawn on you that that might be inappropriate, even though not illegal, that it might be inappropriate for you to have nude photos of your girlfriend on your phone?
Yeah, it don't know it probably wasn't right, but I didn't.
Well, I'm trying. I'm trying to figure out what you're going to do and what you've learned to get my vote to let you out.
Talk about the risk factors and how do you avoid that inappropriate behavior. The risk factors that you went through those 4.5 years of training, and how that helps you avoid that type behavior. That's what I think Mr. Marabella is interested in knowing, if you even know the risk factors. Can you talk about the things that were inappropriate and how to avoid those type behaviors. That's what he's asking you, Dalton.
Oh, yes, I understand it. One of the risk factors is justification. You can't, you gotta justify what you've done as being, it not, so it won't happen again. And the things that they teach in the class, you got to learn how to do what the class teaches you to do, so you won't reoffend again. And that's what
have you learned? What has Dalton Knight learned personally through taking these sex offender courses about what your behavior might be in the future?
That by doing what I was taught in the sex offender class, that as long as I stay within the guidelines and stay away from that kind of stuff, that I won't be tempted to reoffend again in the future.
Okay. Have you taken, since you've been in prison for the last 2 years, have you taken any sex offender programs in prison?
Yes, sir. I'm enrolled in one now.
And when will you finish that program? What phase are you in?
I'm back in phase 1, where I started when I was here before.
Okay. You did have a write-up at the beginning of 2020, right?
Yes, sir.
Tell me about that.
There was two milk stuck together on the line, and when I got my tray, I got the milk and it was stuck. And I took it to the table to unstick it and carry it back, and the captain caught me with 2 milks, and he presumed I was stealing the milk, which I was not stealing the milk. I was going to just pull them apart and carry one of them back.
Mr. Knight, there's very little you can do about this, but I do want to inform you that you have law enforcement opposition to your release. You were classified as a moderate risk to reoffend. How far are you along in your sex offender treatment program? How long have you been in that program you're in now?
Going on right at 60 days. I'll take the test next month to finish phase 1.
All right. Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all the questions I have. Warden, do you have anything you'd like to tell us about Mr. Knight?
Well, you know, his record pretty well speaks for itself, Mr. Marabella. He follows rules well within the institution. He's only had that one disciplinary report, and it wasn't really that significant of a report. He's been here about 18 months, and he gets along well with staff and gets along well with the other offenders. We haven't had any problems at Dalton at all with this institution. That's about all I can say. The rest of it, the record speaks for itself.
Great. Thank you, Warden.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Wise, do you have any questions?
Mr. Marabella, I just have one question. The probation parole officer indicated that you had moved to Texas as a basis for your revocation. Can you speak to that?
Yes, I applied for interstate compact in 2014 when I was here, and when I got finished my term in 2014, then probation officer set it up, and my probation was transferred under Texas supervision, so I could go back to Texas with my family.
But it was said though that you moved to Texas without permission, and that was one of the bases of your revocation.
No, ma'am. I had permission. I had the probation officer I had in Webster Parish set up the interstate compact herself and had it fixed to where I could go to Texas. I filed interstate compact while I was in prison before my full date in 2014 was up.
Okay, all right. I just don't agree with the facts. So the warrant was executed where? In Texas or Louisiana?
It was executed in Texas and at the Texas jail. They picked me up in Texas. Yes,
So you were in Texas?
Yes, yes.
Okay. That's all I had, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wise?
Well, one of the things he got revoked back in May 29th, 2019. I'd like to see him do all 4 phases of his sex offender treatment program.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
That's all I
Wise.
have.
Ms. Knight, Ms. Sherry Knight are you present? I don't see, oh, I see you. You're on the phone. Ms. Knight, can you hear us? You're on mute, ma'am.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Thank you. Ms. Knight, if you would please tell the board whatever you'd like us to know about Mr. Knight.
Okay, well, as far as a person, I call him Ray.
Okay.
He's a very good person. He he gets along with everybody. He tries, he does what he's supposed to do. We were married for 38 years before we got a divorce, and he is still my best friend. I mean, we talk all the time. I do everything I can, even when he was out. I always try to do everything I can to make sure that he is where he needs to go. If he has appointments, I always make sure that, I get him there and stuff. And, I mean, he's just a good person. I think that he would be fine, if let back out. I mean, consider he didn't offend, re-offend, he just didn't pay his probation and stuff. But like I say, I don't think that he would ever do. I personally don't think that he would ever do that again. I honestly do not. If he did, if I thought so, I wouldn't say that, because I wouldn't want him out on the streets, But I personally think that he's that he's a good candidate to come back out. I hope he'll be able to, because one thing, because of his health, another thing is his mom's health is really bad. She's in the nursing home now, and she's getting to where she doesn't remember a whole lot, and she asked about him, but I'm afraid she's going to forget, who he is real soon. And it would just be nice if he could be with family again. And like I say, I am there to support him all the way, whatever he's got to do. I'll make sure, that he does just like he did before. I wasn't aware that he was not paying before. But whatever he needs to do, if he gets out, I mean, I'll be there, with him to help him do whatever, just like I was before.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Knight. He's very fortunate to have you in his corner. So thank you very much for your comments.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Mr. Knight, is there anything you'd like to say to the board before we vote?
I'd just like to say, that the things that happened, that got me back in here won't happen again, because even though I'll have a cell phone, it will not be hooked up to internet service at all, none whatsoever. I mean, I don't even have a computer at home. I mean, I let my computer go when I got convicted, and it's at my aunt's house, and that's where it's going to stay. And my son's 31 years old. I got 2 grandkids, which I've never seen. That I haven't seen pictures of them. I've talked to the little boy. He said "Papa" one time on the phone. That's all I've done. And plus, I have two young kids of my own. I've got two 4-year-old twins that me and my girlfriend has together, and they were born just before I come back to prison this time.
Okay.
But I'm not going to be around them. I'm going to my ex-wife's house, and that's where I'll be residing at in Texas, if I'm permitted to be paroled out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Knight. I appreciate your comments. Is the panel ready to vote? Okay. Mr. Knight, I don't know you, but I've read your report. And I think Ms. Sherry Knight, summed it up. You're a good person. You made some very poor decisions. There's a reason why sex offenders are required to undergo sex offender treatment. And a lot of it has to do with their judgment and how they make decisions. And while it's true, there's nothing illegal about you having nude pictures of your girlfriend on your phone. When you are a convicted sex offender on supervision, that's not smart judgment. That's not good judgment. Those are the sorts of things that sex offender treatment helps you with and tries to explain to you. And that's why it's critical that you finish that sex offender treatment. I'm going to encourage you to continue on, finish phase 1, go on to the next phases, finish all of those. And then once you've done that, if all remains the same, and if I'm still on this board the next time you come, I would probably vote to parole you. But today I can't, because I want you to continue on the road to that sex offender treatment so you can be able to understand why there are certain things that, even though they're legal, shouldn't be done. So good luck to you, sir. Ms. Wise?
I am, sir, the revocation, the reason you are here, it's just not clear to me. And most importantly, it's not clear to you either, because what you say and what the records say do not jive. So let me encourage you, at any point that you're out, you make sure with your cell phone, you have your officer's number and you stay in contact and being only where you're allowed to be. But today, I concur with Mr. Marabella. My vote is to deny. You have poor supervision history. You have law enforcement opposition, and you can benefit from continual programs. Best wishes to you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Wise?
At this time, I'm gonna vote deny. I'd like to see you complete all 4 phases of the sex offender program. Also, you have a law enforcement opposition against your release. And let me tell you something, it's a 14-year-old girl being involved in that. We got to be serious about this thing. My vote is to deny.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Mr. Knight, you have 3 votes to deny with a lot of encouraging remarks. You're doing well. You've got good comments from the warden. I just think you need some more education and some understanding about what it means to stay away from the crimes that you have been accused of in the past. So good luck to you. Encourage you to continue on with your sex offender treatment. Hopefully next time will be the good time for you. So your parole today has been denied.
Thank you, sir.
Things I agree with Jim Wise about. It's a 14-year-old girl. We got to take this seriously, because from this hearing, you really have no kind of idea that really did happen. Something I want to keep in mind, if this was the first time I was ever hearing a hearing, I might say involving a 14, like they mentioned, he tried to contact. What was it? Was it chat? Pictures of his girlfriend. He was at the hospital. Are they being so harsh on him? But we have seen so many of these to know that these roaches are super manipulators. And unless called out directly on it, they'll get away with that manipulation. He states, if you look at it and pick it apart and pull apart the onion, it's just more rot, I believe, on inside after each peel. Again, this is just my opinion. I'm only speculating on a situation like this. But he goes by saying he was at the hospital, and then when he, which maybe he was at the hospital a week before, right? But he kind of made it seem with the words he used like he was actually in the hospital when they came in to get him. But if you listen closely, it's not the case. He states that the pictures were of his girlfriend. And do you really think is his girlfriend, or is it just pictures? And he's like, it's not full body with face. And he's like, prove that it's not my girlfriend, You think about that, right? And because otherwise someone might say, wait a minute, if it's not illegal, why is it being used against him? What's Marabella getting at? But just like think about really what's going on. And you can still argue that, sure. But then let's take a step back and remember it's 14-year-old girl. He has his ex-wife that's willing to take him back in, who oftentimes we see enablers with these. I mean, it's so often there's an enabler. We don't, again, have any details of this crime. I can't help it, provide any more insight. But the thing is, if you've seen enough of these, a 6-year sentence for doing it with a 14-year-old when she was 10 to 14 is a typical sentence. It could be that serious and that bad. Then he brings up his grandkid, and then finally he remembers, oh, right, I have 4-year-old twins, children of my own with my girlfriend, not my ex-wife. It's a lot of scary stuff. Now he's getting out anyways. He's still in, but he's getting out in like a year, but he's still at David Correction. Maybe he'll have one more parole hearing, maybe he won't, but if he does, we'll cover it here. And maybe it'll be a different board, maybe they'll ask more questions, but probably because it is close to his proximity date, they won't. But that's just my 2 cents with the kind of the experience I have doing these hearings. Let's do another one. Man, it's always fun taking that time machine, and look at here. He didn't get released. He has to come out for a new parole hearing, and we're about to watch it. And who would have thought I could have been so prophetic? It is a new board. We're going to see the preacher and the sheriff in action.
All right, your case this morning has been assigned to Mr. Tillis. Would you answer his question?
How you doing, Mr. Knight? How long have you been inside?
Next May will be 5 years. I've been here 4 years and 10 months.
Have you taken any classes or training since you've been there?
I've completed all 4 phases of the Louisiana second class, anger management, reentry, in the NA program now.
Do you feel that you've been helped?
Sir?
Do you feel that you've been helped?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there anything you do differently when you get out?
No, I just about figured out everything that needs to be done, what I've done wrong and what I couldn't be doing. I want to live out on the street.
And if you get out, what are your plans?
I plan to go back to Texas to live and resume my Social Security and minister to homeless people on the street.
Any further questions?
Okay, in 2013, you got put in jail for this offense, for the original offense, and then you got 7 years. Evidently, a lot of that was suspended. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How much time did you spend at that time?
14 months.
Okay, and then you got out, and then you were revoked and put back in.
On probation for 5 years, and I've done 4.5 years and got revoked.
Okay. But the 4.5 years wasn't inside the jail though, right?
No.
Okay, so you got some pretty good breaks to begin with. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, and if you are given parole today, if you aren't given parole today, you're going to be getting out anyway in 6 or 8 months, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So you're wanting another break. Now, you got a break at sentencing, you screwed up, you gotta break it when you got sentenced, and then you screwed up again, and now you're wanting us to give you a chance again. Just for the benefit of getting out some 5 months, 4 months early, correct?
That and health problems too, you know.
Yes. Okay. I don't have.
Why were you revoked in 19?
Ma'am,
Why were you revoked in 2019?
when I was out.
Why did they revoke you?
They said it was for drugs, but I didn't know. They wanted drugs in my system because I don't do drugs, never have done drugs.
Was it for failure to report and you moved without permission and there were some nude photos on your phone and you failed to do or comply with the sex offender treatment?
I had done all that. I mean, what reason I didn't report, I was in the hospital the day I got out the day they arrested me. And I had tried to notify a parole probation officer, and never could get a hold of them.
All right, well, the record does say something different. I noticed that lately you've been in and out of the hospital. What, do you have a serious medical issue?
Yeah, the heart trouble.
All right, Warden, is there anything you want to add?
Mr. Knight's been here since 2019. He's received 1 write-up. He did, I think his summary reflects he was in phase 3, but he has completed the sex offender treatment program. In regards to his medical issues, he's had 8 stents in his heart and he has a previous leg injury that he still has some issues with. But as far as his rule violation reports, I mean, he doesn't really have any significant issues here. He hasn't been any disciplinary issue here while he's been housed here at David Wade.
Thank you. That's helpful. Mr. Knight, is there anything you'd like to say to us before we vote?
No, you know, if granted parole, you know, I'll do everything I have to stay out of there, and I won't be back, that's for sure.
Good to hear. Okay, I think we're prepared to vote. Mr. Tillins?
I think that I'm going to have to deny.
Okay. Mr. Crater?
I'll deny it. If you need I'll deny it. I don't think that it's worth the risk to the citizens of Louisiana to allow you out early at all. And I hope when you do get out, you go to Texas and your health's okay.
Mr. Knight, I do concur with my colleagues. You failed probation for reasons other than what you stated. So my vote today is to deny your parole. You'll have a full term date a little later this year. We wish you well. Good luck.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Notza.
Yes, sir.
Showing one of our offenders that was supposed to be on the docket today, I think is showing at Jefferson, but he's currently here. I'm not sure if they were aware of that.
I don't think it's worth the risk to the citizens of Louisiana to let you out at all. And when you do get out, I hope you go to Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new sheriff in town. I think we are getting the vibe, the way that things might go. That was interesting. I mean, we have seen quite a lot, but that's a little bit of a first. Remember, let's keep in mind that when he initially committed this offense in 2013, when he did this to a 14-year-old child, he was given probation. He was given probation. And it wasn't only till a handful of years later that he violated his probation. He didn't take any of his programs. He absconded. He had all these, and due to his own actions, they lock him back up. Then he gets in front of the parole board. It's the Jim Wise, the Miss Wise, the Mr. Mirabella. They didn't ask the questions about what we didn't get the information. We still didn't get that here. You know, the preacher really was not an impressive job. Now, let's keep in mind this is his very first parole hearing. And I had gone back and seen even Miss Jackson's very first parole hearings and Mr. O'Shea's very first, and it takes a while to settle down. We're not going to jump to any conclusions, but even though it was underwhelming, he still did deny. And maybe he just talks softly and carries a big stick. Maybe he's the only preacher I'll ever have met that doesn't want to hear the sound of his own voice. And we can give him credit just for that. But let's wait and see how things work. But to get 3 denials after they basically said, 4 years ago or 3 years ago, hey, just finish these programs and come back to us. Normally they would just grant. They would say, you know what, we'll grant so we can have you under some supervision and then you'll get. It was none of that. They're just like, get out of here. And I do wonder if Texas and Louisiana have some type of rivalry or something, like where they're each sending each other sex offenders. I don't know how that works. You would think that someone would say, don't send us any, like, we're just not allowing it. But it seems that they do it to each other and they allow it for some reason. It's quite bizarre to me. But it was just refreshing to hear them say, it's not worth the risk, versus what we heard so often, which is, I'm going to take a risk on you. I'm going to take a chance on you. And I find offense to those words, because you're talking about someone who does the worst, a child. So when you unpack those words, you're taking a chance. I mean, he's not reoffending to rob, to go, steal a car, to shoplift, to get back on the wagon for possession. No, you're risking harming a child. You're going to take a chance. So I always found a lot of offense to that. And this was quite the opposite. Again, we don't have any other details on this hearing, but as you can see, they denied him. He's going to serve his full 7 years. And what a contrast from being from the judge and DA agreeing that he would serve no time to end up serving all 7 years. It just shows the difference in administrations and how they can have different, I guess, approaches to crime. I know legislation, there's a lot of moving parts that has to do with it, but interesting, right? Thank you, Richard and Carol, both for chipping in. And with that, I'll let you go.